everyone. Welcome to the stream. How are you all doing today? We are here for episode 3 of Survivor 48 with just about 6 or so minutes to go. I can't believe it's already episode 3. Feels like the season just started. I was like, is it episode 3? Is it? I thought episode 2 was very good. You've always watched on Twitch. Do you prefer you still watch here or should you move to YouTube? It's totally up to you, to be honest. Timothy, thank you for the subscription. Welcome to the Robot Army. I don't yet know if it's worse for people to watch on YouTube. My assumption is that like your view on Twitch will make me more money than your view on YouTube, but I don't know that for sure. And either way, it's probably not significant enough that you should base your viewing decision on it. You should probably just whatever is better for you. I am actually Steph was asking me about emotes for the YouTube. There is a membership option on YouTube if you want to do that. I'm currently in the process of setting it up. If you'd rather do that on YouTube than Twitch, if you already do it over here or whatever the case may be, you know, whatever it is. Twitch does have the predictions, which is certainly a benefit. I think YouTube can, I think, technically have predictions, but you need to use like an extension. It's a bit complicated, and it would and then I'd have to manage 2 separate ones. I think that should be too tricky. So I'm just thinking with 41st, I will read both chats. Thank you, Psyched Reindeer, for the 13th. Nydia for the 34th in a row. Row with 38 in a row, 39 total. Ambi with 51. Thank you. Yeah, so far it's been interesting, the YouTube stuff. I think that 1V, thank you for the 10th. The thumbnails for YouTube I've not quite figured out yet. I'm probably gonna get something worked on so that I can use a proper thumbnail, but to be quite frank, I don't even know how to change it when it's live. I only know how to change it after the fact. But it's been interesting. It's been interesting because a couple of things. One, I would be curious. I can probably look at I don't know how interested you guys are in this. You did ask. But let me see. Content. Like views. So I don't know how Twitch tracks the views, but there's definitely still a lot more views on Twitch than YouTube, even for the VOD. But I'd be curious to know. So that's actually not true for the traders. So the traders finale reactions, I think, actually is has more views on YouTube, which was interesting. I was actually very surprised. There's a ton of comments on that video. That's actually fairly similar. There's let me look. We'll get into the episode shortly. We're still waiting for it to start. I've never been like super. I've never been a good content creator. I've never been super like on top of. No, see, on here it says that there's. Oh yeah, sorry. No, there are more views on YouTube for sure. Let's see. There are 133 comments on the Traders stream. which is wild. Because that's from my experience a lot of comments for an RHAP video. um but I think it's because a lot of people were mad and they were arguing with each other in the comment section. But my point is, it was interesting to me to have a comment section for my streams. I've never had that before. Um, like I'm used to the streams being very sort of like there's a live audience, and then that's just what it is. But now there are people commenting on the stream, which fair enough. Uh, but it's been interesting. I still don't know what the sort of monetary difference is. Like I said, I don't think it's probably going to be significant one way or the other, but probably not a bad idea to build up the YouTube channel in general. Um, it's been accumulating views and subscribers, so that's a good thing. And I think that YouTube is like a more sustainable platform in general. Not for live streaming, but doesn't hurt if you want to be over there. Um, a lot of Danielle arguments in the comments. Yeah. Very vocal in the Discord after Dondi, especially when no recap happened. I did watch Dondi today. There's, I think, one episode left. I'll definitely do a similar thing. I'll do a stream about Dondi for sure. Our episode should be starting soon. I just want to say I have been watching. I don't know if you guys have seen this, the Sam Cedar like debate YouTube video. I've been seeing clips from it all over, so I was just like, let me just watch some of this. And that's what I've been doing. I've had it on for the last like hour. And it is that's where my head is right now. That's where it's it is you watch the clip and you're like, oh, that's funny. You watch the video and you're like, oh my god, this is depressing. Anyway, let me make sure I get the prediction up here. Commercial by 5:14. And the episode's on. Okay, we're resetting Purple Tribe. That's interesting. What? So let me know because I am not on top of coverage. See, Dally, thank you for the 43rd. Did anybody listen to Kevin's exit press? And if so, like, was there anything notable that he talked about? Cap, thank you for the 19th. I think I'm just personally curious about, because I sort of made a criticism of the decision in episode 1, and I'm curious about the reality of that situation, how valid that criticism was. I think in particular is something that I'm particularly curious about. Cedric and Justin were tighter to each other, and himself, he was clearly number 4 in the alliance. So basically, he just didn't feel like he had the pull to save, to make the same move. Can I just say, Mary's giving me main character energy. I think Mary has one of the best edits of the season so far. And this whole segment is raising her stock, I think. This is why is another one of the reasons why I talked about in episode 1 how taking that shot at Say is probably beneficial for most people, including somebody like Justin. Cedric is probably the closest person to Say, but even then, um, Say is a player who plays very hard, and that can be very good for you if you have a great relationship with her. But she's also a player who I think is very smart. And by smart, I mean that like she is not somebody who is going to miss signals that you give. So, for instance, when Justin didn't tell her about the pitch against her in episode 1, now this situation where she was told to use her idol in a spot where she didn't need to use her idol, uh, a lot of other players might like be like, oh, well, look, they voted with me. They voted how I wanted to. It was a little bit of a miscommunication. Say's not going to just ignore those things. And she's a sort of, she plays hard enough that she's potentially going to act on those things as well. And that makes her potentially dangerous to you if you are not 100% on board with her. So, for instance, if the true duo is Justin and Cedric, keeping Say around may not be the play. All right, we're getting a Chad explanation. Who does he remind me of? He reminds me of that actor. I mean, I already said he reminded me of the guy from like Twisters or whatever, visually, but personality wise, he reminds me of that actor. Hold on. That's Mr. Thank you the 14th. Editor, thank you the 33rd. That was interesting. That was like not super explicit, but like a very kind of clear look at sort of like the straight male burden. Which, to be clear, I think is genuine. Um, Not in a way that is like woe is straight men, but in a way that is like I think interesting and worth examining when it comes to the way that then men often sort of spin off into other directions. Like this idea that he needs to be the provider is like a very inherently kind of toxic, or can be a very inherently toxic thing. This guy, he reminds me of this guy in like any role he's in. Not visually, just personality. Okay, that's a weird resetting again that stars like the person, which feels very unnecessary unless they go to tribal. Like it feels very redundant. Like we already knew. Unless they're setting up the idol hunt stuff again. Okay, remember when I said that the connection between Eva and Joe is really strong as long as you keep it a secret? Publicly giving a gift. Ugh, like that. No. And I'm sure that's just a symptom. Is from what it sounds like, Thomas is saying that like they kind of hang out a lot. All right. Yes, we did get a commercial. Next prediction: does anyone find an advantage? I'm gonna things I'll count. On Say's tribe, they could find a clue, a beware advantage, an idol, whatever. On Star's tribe, she could figure out her thing and finally get her idol. And then on the other tribe, I don't even remember what's happening on the other tribe. I don't think they found anything yet. Did they find anything yet? I don't remember. I think they did. They did, right? And then they worked together. Am I making this up? Anyway, you know what I mean. That's the prediction. And you know what? If they go to like Advantage Island and get something, I will count that uh, as a yes as well if it happens in one segment. Kyle has the. Does Kyle have the idol? I don't remember. I feel like they. Yeah, I feel like somebody found an idol, and they worked together to do it. Right? Kyle found it. Camilla cracked it, and that was the one that was just like they just had like the numbers. The numbers were just there anyway, right? Right. It was the no. It was the word scramble. It was the word scramble. Yeah, yeah. Now I remember. Enlist. Yes. I don't know if that was a me thing that it was like really hard to remember, or if that is like an indication that they're not super important, that it wasn't that memorable. Yes, thank you for the 54th month. Um, it's wild. It's wild to me how often I'm seeing in these reality shows lately that like people are not keeping their allegiances secret. I talk a lot about how that's one of the first lessons that Big Brother taught strategically was that secrecy is vital. And then even in a show like The Traders, most recently, it's like, what? Where's the secrecy? Give us a little more secrecy here. Um, it seems like it's fallen out of fashion. Interestingly, the idea of being secret with your not just alliances but allegiances, even more importantly. All right, we're back. Mary's back. Okay, so she might find something here. I knew Mary was going to be great. Her pet peeves were some of the better ones. I should always just trust in the pet peeves. I really thought that going for a naming for name themes was going to be fun. I also hate looking for things. Her first pet peeve was slow drivers in the left lane, which was just objectively a great pet peeve. It just wasn't super original. I think also she talked about like when you buy food and it's bad, something like that. That is a good one. And she's running. like her in confessional being like, I respect Say more for following me is just positive content. Although it is getting to the point where this could be too positive for a winner edit. I'm sorry. I would 1,000% do the same thing if I were Mary. Okay. People have been talking about this. The enemies to lovers storyline might be real. I genuinely, the way they set up that whole segment, that might actually be a real thing. But especially Charity. Charity. Let's go. Let's go. These two. Come on. These two are the main characters. Please. This is not just a boot. This is not just a boot edit. Come on. I'm manifesting this. Thank you for the 30-second Mario. I did not see the hot takes. This seems like false hope. This does seem like a boot edit. He's not gonna though. This is all false hope. I think it's a boot edit for Charity and or oh jeez. Other guy. The names of the Orange Tribe are really escaping me. Mitch, thank you. I see we're burying Star some more. Oof, she chose the wrong targets. It was a good attempt. I think good instincts, but she chose the wrong targets. You know what? I say that it should have been the right time. Joe and Shaheen were the first two people she went to. Of course, Bianca would want that, but she's not part of the California girls who would not want that. This is also false hope, I think. In theory. I don't think they do it though. See, I don't get that vibe from Star that Thomas just said. So that's a no on advantage finding. We could run it back, or we could do something else. What do you guys think? It feels like they're teasing us with idol finding between Star's idol and Mary and Say running around. I think we run it back. Then we find an advantage this time. Um, so yeah, this idea of Star being a wild card just doesn't super track to me. Um, and now of course, like we are seeing her confessionals, so it's easier for us to get a read than them potentially. They are also spending a lot more time with her though. Um, but the way that I talked about say in that, and I wouldn't even call Say a wild card either. I think Say is actually not a wild card. I think Say is a very predictable player. Um, like how I would define wild card is they might just do something that you could not predict, that you could not have predicted, um, and thus their existence in the game makes the game less predictable. Um, I think Say might appear to be a wild card because she is not beholden to what she says she's going to do. Um, but in reality, she's just a very uh like aggressively self-interested player. Um, seemingly. And she is going to act on the reads that she gets, and she gets fairly accurate reads. So with all of that in mind, you can kind of anticipate what Say might do, which means that you can either confidently vote her out if she's not going to be useful for you, or keep her in because she will be. I think for the most part, from what it seems like, a lot of people have currently like misread Say in their relationship with Say, whereas Star um, has not struck me as sort of either. Uh, I mean, I assume she is a self-interested player like many, but like she also strikes me as somebody who just wants a team, like just wants some people to work with, and would probably be a fairly loyal and reliable ally, I think, to the degree that you can trust her. Now, you always here's the real thing, right? Like, um, you have to be wary of people that you don't have a strong social connection to. And that's not their fault, nor is it, vice versa necessarily. But like, because you don't have a strong connection to Star, you may interpret that relationship and thus her as a wild card, um, because because you don't have the knowledge or the ability to sort of like anticipate or control or influence her actions. But that doesn't mean that she herself is actually a wild card. Um, I think all this is very important when it comes to like who to align with and how. All right, I haven't come back yet, but it sounds like we actually do have a challenge. So we can do a refund and a challenge prediction if we'd rather do that, which I assume we would. Um, that is typically how we. I didn't say that ahead of time, but that is typically how we do it. If there's a challenge, we refund unless I account for the challenge. All right. I'm assuming this is a tribal reward challenge, but I'll wait until I know for sure. It's immunity? Really? This early? This isn't like a double elimination episode, is it? Immunity challenge. All right. Which tribe comes in first? That's been working for us. We'll go orange, purple, green. Which tribe comes in first place in this challenge? I remember now that there was a preview of this challenge and it looked particularly brutal. I do think Survivor has lost the weight of the rewards. I remember watching Survivor and being like, wow, they get a tarp? That's such a huge deal. But like, I feel fairly confident, at least it's been the case in many of the previous, 10 years of seasons, that whoever wins the tarp, I will forget. I will forget that they won it as soon as this challenge ends. It will likely never be a factor again, and I will never remember that they even had it in the first place. Oh, who could forget the car curse? His hands are a little high. Is there a reason they're traveling in a group if you can just go off on your own? I guess it's hard to direct multiple people at the same time. Two are tied. Okay. I mean, generally, the thing to do, right, is sort of just like wave your arm like in circles around you in front of you, which is generally, I think, what people do. But like, you can move fairly quickly if you do that, I think. You also want to sort of crouch a bit so that your head is roughly where you are feeling with your hand. But that doesn't work if you're tied with somebody, obviously. Unless you really had a lot of faith that like the person in front of you just like goes for it, and if they got through, then you can. But that's not always the case. Ooh. Okay. Purple and orange, both at the same place ahead of green. I like this. This is where I like to be. She she's just turning her body. No, sorry. She's keeping her body in the same position. No, this is what she's doing. She's turning right and then walking sideways and being like, "I'm going left." All right, they're not that far behind. They're very much in it, I think. They have plenty of time to catch up. Oh, God. You could at least give, like, genuinely, you should probably give them some amount of, like, head protection. Like, this challenge is just a concussion waiting to happen. See, I feel like they're really playing up that green is behind, but they should have plenty of time. This is a slide puzzle, and they're doing it blind. They are pretty far behind, I will say. At this point, the other tribes have to screw up for them to succeed. But that's not far-fetched. I don't think being blindfolded ups the difficulty of slide puzzles much if you know how to do. Oh, if you know how to do slide puzzles. Yeah, that's fair. And I'm sorry, but anybody that plays Survivor and doesn't know how to do slide puzzles, just come on. Purple! Star is safe. They did also set up a boot edit for orange. If green knows how to do it and orange doesn't, that could just be it. I can't tell. It does look like it looks like orange is ahead. They look like they're done. They are done. Okay. Green 3 times in a row. Wow, man, let me tell you. If you are ever watching a season of Survivor where there's a disaster tribe that keeps losing, here's a piece of advice for you. Have nobody on your draft from that tribe. It makes it a lot easier. it's it's really the best case scenario in a bad scenario. We're journeying. Bianca. Pizza Man. Camilla seemed unhappy about that. That was interesting. I mean, it like it's hard to know. I completely forgot what I was saying. I was saying it 2 seconds ago. Oh, the idea of I mean, so this has been talked about, but like the idea of punishing the tribe that loses immunity can't help the situation. I don't know how much of an actual impact it makes, but like it can't be good. So I feel like you almost want to start to consider if you win immunity, we take your flint. If you lose, you get a reward. And now all of a sudden, you can play up the whole drama of like, ooh, do we want to throw just so we can get a blanket? You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. Just throwing things out there. All right, next prediction. Um, how many of the three get an advantage? 0, 1, 2, or 3? How many of the three sent to the journey are going to get an advantage? That's the prediction. There you go. I feel like I was hearing, like I got this vibe from the draft itself that other people who were doing the draft with me expected this tribe to be the disaster tribe. I don't know how. I don't know, like, because it's because it sounds like that was a common thought amongst preseason discussion. Um, I mean, I think you can look at Orange and say it's got big dude. He's fine. He's gonna carry that tribe. Um, oh, by how they acted online. Okay. I thought people were like judging based on like the looks of the challenge performers. Because I thought challenge performance wise, they looked fine to me. Like they seemed fairly on par with Purple Tribe to me physically. Because like yeah, you've got Joe who's big, but he's also like a little bit older versus somebody like Kevin who's like young and super fit. And then you have like the two perfectly physically capable, strong guys in Shaheen and Thomas and Cedric and Justin. Um, and like beyond that, like it's tough to evaluate. Now, I will give you Eva and Star both athletes. That is definitely true. But you only really need so much physicality. You know what I mean? Like that's why you can look at Orange and say it's got the one big guy, and they probably are going to be fine because you only really need one. Bianca's also an athlete. Well, but you really only need one like super physical person. Oh well, we're back already. But if it was more based on like social media talk, that makes more sense to me. Oof, you know you're in trouble when your game plan is to pretend you have it. That is always the last resort of the desperate. They can't split the vote if Justin doesn't have his. Well, they can. Actually, almost. Wait, hold on. Yeah, they can. I really like Cedric as a player generally. Like they're not really pushing this narrative, but like he's so clearly the backbone of that tribe. Like he is in the power position of that tribe. Mary and Say are overshadowing him in the edit, but like it certainly seems like he is the center of. He's making the decision every week. He's at the center of the strategic structure. He's the glue guy. Why don't you just have them roll one at a time? I could be wrong. I just feel like rolling all 7 at once could be very anticlimactic. All right, fair enough. It's playing out pretty well for Bianca. 3-3. I missed it. Did they force them to do this, or could they have turned it down? Oof. I don't love being forced to play. I guess I see sort of what's happening. The thing is, it's just like if you're gonna be forced to roll dice to keep your vote or not by another tribe, there should be more opportunity for you to communicate with that tribe. Hold on, Camilla losing her vote could be huge for charity fans. Come on. Come on. Give me that skull. No! Damn it! Charity's so screwed. Now, even if they do get, like, Kyle to flip, she's got an extra vote. I know. I like Camilla, too. No vote for the pizza man. Let me tell you, this would suck as a player. All right. How many of the 3 get an advantage? One. One of them got an advantage. Okay. Next prediction. Does Mary tell anyone she has an idol? Or we could ask if Justin, does Justin, that's fairly obvious now. Does Mary tell anyone she has an idol? Okay. Couple of things could happen here. I think that Justin Boot actually makes the most amount of sense edit wise, just because like he seems to have the least amount of like long term story edit. However, it could still certainly be Mary, and what we've seen from Mary is just like a fun character we don't want to leave. It could absolutely happen. It could be absolutely an Asia situation. Continuing to build up Say as this sort of like villain. Um, it could also be Say. If this is because this could potentially be the last tribal before they do a swap. And this could be like the culmination of uh this tribe storyline where Say finally leaves after pushing it too far. So right now, I feel like any of those three work with the edit. I think the safest has got to be Cedric. It's just seems. I mean, edit wise, it could be Cedric, but just strategically, it's hard to justify that at the moment. Cito, thank you for the 44th in a row. Um, a tie makes sense if they split their vote. The thing is, I just don't. Well, what's interesting about Justin losing his vote here is that um, if he, since he can't vote, Cedric can't force Say to not split, and Say has a lot of interest in splitting here, um, because even if Mary doesn't have an idol, she might have a shot in the dark, and if she has a shot in the dark, then Say is in danger if she doesn't split, and it hits. All right, we're back. It is interesting that we're getting other tribes. I mean, we still have a half hour left in this episode. I mean, listen, the notion that you always should be hiding your advantages just isn't true. I think in a lot of scenarios you should be, but it's definitely not the case that you always should, I think. Lying is a currency in the game, and you only have so much of that currency, and you build up more of it by being honest. Yeah, why did she lie about what the challenge was? See, that's again like she just spent currency on that live for no reason. Thomas is very fun. Oh, that's a good point from David in the YouTube chat. If you split, Mary could guess who you voted for and make it 2-1. I do think he should be lying here. I would tell Cedric though. See, this is again like I don't think there's a reason to not tell Cedric here. I think you tell him. There's multiple reasons to tell him here. Which is especially bad if he doesn't have a vote himself. Which is why it's vital that he gets Cedric to not allow Say to split the vote or to do something different. For instance, if Cedric knows you don't have a vote, maybe what you actually do is tell Cedric vote for Say with Mary. Ooh, is Mary going to say she has it? This is so funny. It's like an anime and says like, "You're not giving me your best. I thought we were having fun." All right, based on this setup, I think this should be straightforward, actually. Um, so Mary did not say that she had an idol. She implied it. She did not tell anyone she had an idol, which is what we were looking for. Um, let's go for does say vote Justin. Yes, no. For the sake of being careful, I will hide the percentage here. If you don't want to vote because you're worried about potential spoilers, you can avoid the vote. But the prediction is live. Last time we did this, it did not seem spoiled, so I think we're okay with it. I think like a good rule of thumb to have in a game like this, and it's rule of thumb to think about this, not to necessarily believe the conclusion, but you should be thinking, like, what action am I taking based on a read of somebody else's behavior or actions? So, like, if you're Say and you see that Mary is not looking for idols anymore, and you're like, what? This makes no sense. Why would she not be looking for an idol anymore? There's an obvious conclusion, which is that she has an idol. And if she has an idol, then the obvious response is that I need to now split my vote. Um, which is why it can, I think, be very useful to then make sure you're taking another look at this and going, okay, I'm trying to figure out why Mary is not looking for an idol. If I zoom out and I look at the overhead of this, Mary's not looking for an idol. Therefore, I'm now splitting my vote, which is potentially very beneficial for Mary. So that's my reaction might be the reason she's doing this. That is another potential reason for why she's doing this. That isn't that she actually has the idol. Um, that does not mean that it's always going to be the case in that scenario, but it's always worth considering. Um, because you also might consider like if she did have an idol, does it like would she be doing what she's doing, signaling that she has an idol without actively saying that she does? Probably not, right? All right, we're back. If there's a three-way tie, who do I think goes? I think Mary would leave in that spot. The problem is that Cedric is the only vote after that. And Cedric just chooses Mary to leave. Just think of the 36th. Wait. I'm assuming that. Hold on. The revotes are always a little tricky. That is how it works, right? Three-way vote between Justin, Mary, Say. None of them vote. Cedric is the only one that votes. I don't think that's how it should be, for the record. They all get to vote. They changed. Okay, I'm remembering. I'm remembering a little bit this. I do remember that they changed the rule. So this is really like a test of Mary, right? If she thinks she can successfully get, say, to split her vote, then she must know her only hope is to put her vote on Justin. If she has any read on this, the tribe dynamics. If Mary did vote Justin, I think that might be one of the most impressive saves I've ever seen on Survivor. I with the caveat, now I have to caveat a little bit. It only worked because Justin lost his vote. But still, it would be very incredible. All right, Mary. All right, Mary. It's a little obvious here. You're playing it up a little bit here. I think Jeff knows it's going to be a tie. I just got a vibe from Jeff that he knows. Oh, and I'm looking at the time. He cut Tribal short because he knows it's a tie and there's more to talk about after the vote. That would be my reading Dwight as the Blood on the Clock Tower storyteller. All right, not looking at chat. Yeah, there's no way the vote ends here. It has to be a tie. Oh, she just played the shot in the dark. Wait, but what if it hits? Wait, what happens if it hits, actually? Wait. What happens if it hits? If it hits, they're locked. They're deadlocked. Right? No shots. Okay, but now it's just Justin. Justin, because he lost his vote, is done. I'm assuming. I'm assuming here. I'm assuming she votes Justin because the episode's over if she doesn't. Yeah. Oh, all the votes were for Mary. She didn't split. She didn't need to split. Now they're gonna split. Okay, jeez. Okay, so Jeff did not know that it was gonna be a tie, nor was it. He couldn't have known that it was gonna that the shot in the dark was gonna hit either. So that was a wrong read. But it has to be Justin. I mean, it's still gonna tie probably here. Oh no, Cedric. If Cedric ties it here, he's kind of screws himself. Wait, no, this is hold on. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. All right, hold on. We're gonna do the prediction. Does Sai vote Justin? No, she did not. She did not vote Justin. Does Cedric vote Justin first? What I mean by this is when he reads these votes, did Cedric vote for Justin initially, or does he vote for Say and it ties, and then they revote, and eventually he maybe changes his vote? But did he vote for Justin in this first vote that we are looking at? That is the prediction. So what we're looking at is that there's only 2 votes. Mary gave hers up when she played Shot in the Dark. Listen, I could be wrong. Mary gave hers up when she played Shot in the Dark. Justin doesn't have one. So there's only 2 votes. So if Say votes Justin and Cedric votes Say, then it ties and they have to revote. And I think, I could be wrong, I think the revote rule is that because Justin doesn't have a vote, Say will get to keep her vote on the revote. If there is a revote. If there's not a revote, is it just Cedric that leaves? No, certainly not, right? God, this is so confusing, actually. Like if they tied it here, but that doesn't make sense. The rock rule is to prevent people from tying the vote after a tie, but this would be a completely new and different tie. It would be wild to exclude Justin and Say from a rock draw on a single tie. Is this what happened in 31? Jeez, I don't remember. This is... The point should be that it should be impossible for Say to leave here. It should straight up just be Justin. But there's, I guess, a small chance that it could be Cedric. If they force a rock draw on a tie that didn't exist before because it's technically the second tie, and Cedric is the only person that can then draw a rock because he doesn't have a vote on himself, which is, I think, a wild rule. If that's what happens, that would be a very silly thing to happen. But we're back. All right, not looking at chat again. The prediction is, did Cedric vote Justin in this vote? We know Say voted Justin. Second vote. He voted Say! Oh, boy. He still didn't realize that Justin didn't have his vote. He screwed himself. Okay, we are now revoting again. That is, I think, the correct thing to do. But if he votes for Say, Jeff, please explain what happens if he votes for Say. Who's drawing the rock? Is it him and Justin? Just him? Or all three of you? Because I assume it's just going to be him, in which case this isn't even a decision. So this is what I was saying before I got sidetracked on rules, is that this is how they go from friends to enemies, or from enemies to lovers. Because now they're both guaranteed to stay. Or I think at least they're guaranteed to stay. He voted for Say again. So, is it now? Is he just auto out? Did he know this? Surely this was explained to him, if this is what's happening. Is he just about to explain that Cedric is gone? I think he is. Okay, but he's explaining something different. Mary does not have a say. Wait, what? Hold on. Hold on. What? This goes completely against what you just said. What's the point in giving Mary a vote there when Justin doesn't, or sorry, giving Say a vote there when Justin doesn't have one, if you're then just going to take it away on the following revote? That second revote was nonsense. There was pointless. I mean, listen, I'll give them this. This is better television than the alternative. It's just I feel not very consistent. With a stipulation. Did she just talk her way out of it and Justin's just sitting there? Cedric. Surely not. What the hell? What? This is perhaps the most amount of whiplash I've ever had at a tribal council. I have gone back and forth so many times on what I thought was going to happen. What is what is the stipulation? I will keep you after trying to vote you out with the stipulation that you work with the other person on the tribe. Potentially cutting me out of this. He voted for her twice. He voted for her twice. And then when he finally had the sole say, he changed his mind. Okay, all right. Does Cedric vote Justin first? No, he does not. Even the prediction, I was like, not only did he not vote Justin first, he never voted Justin. But then it turned out he did vote Justin. I mean, listen, I have to give it to them. Their decision with this rule set made for the most dramatic outcome and like also gave the same results as what would have been a more consistent rule. I will give them that, but I still take quite an issue, I think, with this set of rules. It feels very inconsistent and also very hidden. The fact that they didn't know what was happening, seemingly. The fact that we didn't know what was happening. I mean, there's a whole conversation. I mean, listen, I think the last time there's a tiebreak rule like this, I podcasted with Shannon and we had a whole conversation about it. I feel like I need to talk to Shannon right now. I feel like I need to discuss this with Shannon. I'm just so there's too many things. There's too many things to mention right now. I mean, because again, like the thing is, regardless of the rule, Justin leaving was and should have been theoretically the outcome. I think what we talked about last time is that this rule of the person who doesn't have a vote having their vote, not having their vote, meaning that the other person can vote on the grounds that their votes cancel each other out, is not the correct way of going about things because it leads to. Okay, we're back. Hold on, we're back. Dropping buffs. Okay. The stipulation that they work together actually does make more sense with a swapped tribe, because if they end up on the same tribe together, they might need each other. That does make some sense. I feel bad for Justin, but based on what we were given in the show, based on what we saw, this felt like it could have been preventable for a couple of reasons, but only because of bad rules. Number one, the second he made this decision, I said, I think you should have told Cedric. If you tell Cedric, he can plan ahead. He does not feel betrayed. So many different reasons why you should have told Cedric in the first place. You have to imagine that part of Cedric's decision came from the fact that Justin lied to him about losing his vote. And to be fair, I would feel similarly. Here's the thing. If I'm Cedric, I would have voted Justin immediately. The second that the vote comes in and it's 2 on Mary and no other votes, I'm looking at Justin and I'm going, what happened to your vote? And he either says, sorry, I actually didn't have a vote, or he turns his head away in shame, or whatever the case is. At that point, I am going, okay, that's it. I'm rocking with Say, and I'm voting Justin with Say. Because I know she's voting Justin. And so this is going to tie. And theoretically, I don't know how this the tie vote is going to work. But he votes Justin, trying to force through this tie. Now, if he knows this is how the tiebreaker works, and he knows all he needs to do is keep voting Say, and eventually it will work. Because that's how this rule worked, by the way. This is the result of this current rule set. Is that all Cedric had to do was keep voting the same person, and then eventually, after a couple of times doing that, after 3 times doing that, Jeff will go, okay, fine, Cedric, we'll give you what you want. With nothing else changing. Not 3 votes. He votes Say 1, 2, 3 times, and Jeff finally goes, okay, now you get what you want. Now it counts. That's wild. That's silly, right? But that's all he needed to do. And if he knew that's all he needed to do, sure. At that point, you can vote you can vote Say, and you can just wait until your vote counts more for whatever reason. And then Say will go, and Justin will be like, yo, you stood up for me. Thank you so much. But if you didn't know that was going to happen, it's wild to make that call in the first place. But then, okay, so then he votes for Say. Once I have voted for Say, one time, let me tell you, I've been talking about Say this whole time. I've been talking about how I might be willing to work with, I might be wanting to work with somebody like Say. I think that Say could be a fantastic ally for me if I feel like I have a good connection with her. Because I feel like a very hard player, plays hard, self-interested. I like those players. Self-interested and smart, I will say. Smart, self-interested, plays hard. I love that combination of players. What I don't like is plays hard, self-interested, questionable decision-making. That's what I would not want to work with. But I don't think Say is that. I think Say makes correct reads and generally correct decisions. And because of that, I can feel comfortable working with her because I feel like I will be able to generally have an idea of what she might do in any given moment. So with that said, I show my cards to her and vote her out, not once, but twice. That bridge is burnt. That bridge is burnt because from every angle, from a self-interested angle and from a relationship angle, that's really hard to come back from. In fact, I would say it's more difficult to come back from a self-interested angle. If I'm playing a game with someone and I think I can trust them with everything, and then I find out that that person has not been working with me in the way that I thought they were, I will never be able to trust that person fully ever again. It doesn't mean that I can't work with them short term, and that's, I'm sure, what he's banking on, but like, why not just work with Justin? Now, here's the thing. Justin also lied, which is why I would have voted Justin out first in the first place. But I genuinely, this is why I'm saying this. The second I see that Justin lied to me about his vote, I would drop Justin and I would much rather work with Say. But not if I reveal to Say that I'm willing to vote her out. But I very much would do that because Justin is the kind of player who, if he reveals to me that he is willing to lie to me about a piece of information like that, it tells me that I cannot rely on him. It tells me that he is not a loyal player. And on top of that, it tells me that he is not somebody that is making decisions that I find to be correct, logically sound. Because he lied to me, and he lied to me in a way that was not beneficial to either of us. That's like the biggest red flag for me for an ally. Like, you're going to potentially withhold information, lie to me, maybe even betray me. Who knows? And it wasn't even good for you to do that. How can I work with you, right? How can I trust that we will be able to work well together? Like, if you lie to me, withhold information, betray me for a reason that is like, oh yeah, well, you got an advantage from that. You know, like that was a correct decision. It's like, well, I can trust that you will only betray me if it's the right move. So as long as I'm able to anticipate when the right move to betray me is, then I can anticipate what you will do. But if you are making conclusions that are not reachable by me, then I can't predict what you're going to do, and I can't rely on you. Anyway. So that's why I feel like you should have voted Justin out in the first place. But he votes say twice. Then, and I'm sorry, Justin. I'm gonna keep dunking on you just for a second. And I know this is your boot episode, and I'm very sorry about this. But from what we saw in this episode, what was he doing? He was just sitting there. Now this very much could be the edit, right? This very much could just be how it was edited. We do not know for sure what actually happened in this moment. There's a very good chance, in fact, I would say there's a very high chance that Justin said a lot more than they showed in the episode. However, what they tried to imply to us was that he did not fight as hard as Say. And even that I wouldn't necessarily believe, and still am shaky about believing. Here's what I would say. Here's what I will say. I would not go hard on Justin for not speaking up here. I would not like interrogate him about it. I would not send him any kind of hate or even talk like super negatively about Justin based on this, because I really do feel like it is like completely in a position where like this is just completely up to the edit, how they choose to portray it. There's a very good chance he tried very hard. So what I will say is there's a little bit more of a concrete situation here where when Cedric is like starting to contemplate, when Cedric is starting to make his decision and Justin is kind of sitting there doing nothing, that's a spot where I would be like, Cedric, no, hold on, wait, don't make this decision. Even that, I'm going to say, could have been edited out. Would they have? Should they have? You know, I think that would have been pretty dramatic if he had done it. I don't know why they would have cut it out, but they certainly could have. And I will leave that open. And then again, continue on. Like, if this was portrayed sort of even like 20% of this was reality, like, dude, fight harder, man. You know? And I hate that I have to make so many caveats there, but like, I think it's really important because I think that like, this is a situation where he will probably get a lot of heat for that. And it might be entirely unfair. And it's definitely a situation where like the second he says, oh no, I did fight, they just cut it out, I'm taking his word for it and I'm saying, fair enough. Based on what we saw, come on. Come on. Um, the reverse of that is kudos to Say, who just fought tooth and nail there to save herself. Um, that's a hard thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do. To convince somebody who just voted you out twice to change their mind on the third vote. Tarano, I think for the 18th. That's a really hard thing to do. Like, I wouldn't have done it. That's not a spot where people change their minds often. So I wish we could have heard a little more from Cedric. I'm sure we probably will in the next episode about like why he made that decision, what it was that changed his mind. But just it was great that she fought so hard and managed to flip it. Like not enough players do that. And what I will say about the rule change is that I do think, or the rule set in general, is that the rules should, I think, prefer scenarios like this to scenarios where Cedric is auto out because he's the only one eligible for a rock draw. I do firmly believe that. I do think that this was significantly more compelling television than the reverse. Whether it was an automatic rock draw or if he just knew an automatic rock draw was coming and therefore changed his vote in anticipation of that, either way wouldn't have been nearly as interesting as this was. What this gave was an opportunity for everyone to drop their guards, for everyone to just be fully open and pleading for their case and then having to make a decision. That is the I think just straight up correct decision for television. So what I will say is I think that leading up to that point should be more consistent and transparent. The idea that you are going to give, say, a vote on a revote twice and then take that vote away doesn't make sense, right? Like it just doesn't make sense. If Say doesn't have a vote after a deadlock, if Say is not part of a rock drop potential because of that, like then Say shouldn't have had the vote in the first place. Because all you're doing is having a fake revote essentially, where it was always up to Cedric no matter what happened. From the second Mary hit shot in the dark, it was always up to Cedric what happened. If he wanted Sagon, he could do it. It would just take 3 rounds. If he wanted Justin gone, he could do it instantly. So that's just a weird set of rules that I think needs to be cleaned up. And we've always kind of known this. We always know the rules are a little fast and loose and not super consistent. It's just that it doesn't often get to a point where that becomes super relevant. But on occasion, you get into these niche scenarios. What happens if Say votes Cedric instead? That's actually a good point. If Say votes Cedric, that actually is theoretically a better vote. I assume what happens is that if Say votes Cedric and Cedric votes Say, they end up rock drawing together. Right? That makes the most amount of sense, I think. But is that clarified in the rules? Has that even anticipated in the rules? I guess theoretically, what you would assume if the rules hold true is that if Say and is that if Say, hold on though, if Say and Cedric, yeah, if Say and Cedric vote each other, they cancel out each other's votes. At that point, according to the justification for the rule change, there wouldn't even be a revote, right? Because the only reason you're giving them a vote on a revote is because the other one doesn't have a vote. But if they both have a vote, then there's no other votes. I guess you could theoretically give them, and you should give them an opportunity to revote, but it's still not super consistent. It's just like adding another addendum to the rule. But then theoretically, if the other rule set stays in place and it deadlocks on Say and Cedric, then it would be Justin who auto rock draws out. But that would again equally be silly because the entire point of the rock draw is to prevent a player with a vote from intentionally putting themselves in a position to have to draw rocks. But if he doesn't have a vote and has no say in that decision, then there's no point in the rock draw, which is sort of what they like. That spirit of the rule is why they went with the decision they did with Cedric, right? Which was that like we only ever really go to rocks to discourage people from deadlocking themselves into ties. But because Cedric is the only one who would have a vote, we are not going to go to rocks. We are going to just let him decide. But you could have justified it by saying Cedric choosing to tie this vote instead of agreeing with Say is what caused him to then have to rock draw. But either way, either way. I just think that they need to have a very specific and clear and transparent set of rules for how tiebreakers work in the new era. I think that give us a vote, Jeff. Put this on the vote for 50. Do we want a clear and transparent set of rules for how tiebreakers work? Because I certainly would. I never want to see a scenario where there's a player like Say who is finding out after she voted 3 times that she accidentally just boxed herself into having no vote again. Right? Because if she knew, I would have to assume, if she knew that it would come down to Cedric's decision if she kept tying it, then she probably would have flipped her vote to Cedric in order to tie it on the two of them. And at the very least, give herself a 50% chance of being a rock draw against Cedric, or forcing Justin to be the rock draw, because that would have objectively been the correct decision, assuming that you can't flip Cedric again, which she ended up doing. So maybe that wouldn't have happened. But like her being able to make that decision herself, I think is vital. Right? She couldn't flip her vote after the first vote. No. Or sorry, she couldn't vote for Cedric after the first vote because they're tied between her and Justin. But she could have in the first vote. And again, like, there's a good argument to be made that she wouldn't have made that decision because she thought that she was voting with Cedric at that point. But I think my point still stands that like she should at least have the knowledge that she's making a decision in that moment. She doesn't realize after that vote what she's locked herself into because she doesn't seem to know how the rules would play out from that point. But if you know how the rules play out, you at least get to make that decision. You at least get to falsely trust Cedric. Like I could vote Cedric and guarantee that I'm safe. Or not safe, but I could guarantee that I have a chance if Cedric wants me out. Or I can trust Cedric and vote for Justin and hope that we both vote Justin. Like, that's a decision she should be able to make because she has all of that information, I think. Anyway. Oh, boy. Not to mention the fact, if she had split her vote in the first place, then it would have just straight up been over. We didn't even talk about how she did not end up splitting her vote. which nearly led to her own elimination. Um, Mary ends up staying, but she actually failed to get. See, again, this is sort of why I'm pretty high on Mary right now, edit wise. Although it again might be too positive, is that like they really made us feel like Mary succeeded there, but she actually didn't. Right? Like she failed to get, say, to split the vote, and she ended up having to use her shot in the dark, which you know 5 out of 6 times she's out here. But the edit made it seem like she like succeeded in pulling off her plan, right? Which is very good for and I'm not saying that as like a negative thing for Mary. In fact, I think it's a very positive thing for her edit. Um, but uh, but I think it's like very easy to come away from this episode feeling like, wow, look at Mary, look at what she did, when in reality it wasn't really what she did actually. Um, Rob and Steven are discussing this in RGB right now, even they're surprised at how that went down tonight. I suppose I should get off and let you guys listen to Rob and Steven, who I'm sure will be more knowledgeable about this than me. Um, Listen, I'm rooting for Mary for sure. Uh, all right. Anyway, let's see. Um, Jet lag. We officially have jet lag coverage again. If you like jet lag coverage and you want to see episode recaps of jet lag, you should make sure you subscribe to the jet lag feed and watch the video or whatever it is, because we do not always have guaranteed jet lag coverage, and so the more people that consume the jet lag coverage, the more likely it is to continue to return, is what I will say. So hopefully you enjoy it. Check out the jet lag coverage. So the first episode dropped on YouTube today. That is the coverage we have today. Episode 2 is out on Nebula, and so we will be discussing that one next week when that one drops on YouTube. Jet lag, very very fun, by the way. If you have not checked it out, Tom Scott from YouTube is competing this season. In addition to that, Tastemakers. Check out the Tastemakers. We are talking about all the latest stuff. In addition to that, Wheel of Time season 3 is dropping tomorrow, I believe, and I will be covering that episodically with Grace. So make sure you check out that if you're into the Wheel of Time. Lots of stuff going on, and on top of that, I got a Big Brother 11 retrospective coming tomorrow. Oh my god, there's a lot happening. What is this? The on season? So check it all out if you would like. And I will definitely do some sort of stream about Dondi when that finishes. Maybe once people figure out exactly what's going on with these tiebreaker rules, we'll have another discussion about that. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this stream. We had quite the discussion here afterward. Definitely a cool one to watch with people, at least. So we got that going for us. Anyway, thanks again, and I will see all of you next time.